survey research conducted by Jennifer and Emily. Survey research, in short, is when data is collected via individuals' responses to a set of questions. The sample of individuals surveyed must be representative of the population of interest, and responses can then be used to predict or estimate more general population responses. The two most common methods of survey research are questionnaires and interviews, although a combination of these methods may be used. An interview is any kind of verbal communication during which the subject provides information to the researcher. Interviews can be conducted face-to-face, via telephone, or computer. They may also be informal conversations with broad questions and may even include questionnaires. There are also structured interviews in which the interviewee may not stray from the pre-written questions. A questionnaire is a written self-report designed to elicit information that can be obtained from a subject's written responses. These may be administered by the researcher themselves, or the participants may self-administer the questionnaire. They may be sent on paper, via email, verbally asked during an interview, or done on the internet. Questionnaires may be completed individually or in a group setting. Finally, the questionnaire may include questions regarding the participants' demographic information unrelated to the research topic itself in order to get a comprehensive understanding of the sampled population. Survey research can be quantitative, qualitative, or both. Quantitative research, according to Gray and Grove, is a formal, objective, systematic study process implemented to obtain numerical data to answer a research question. There are 4 types: descriptive, correlation, quasi-experimental, and experimental. Quantitative survey research may include using surveys with numerically rated responses. For example, on a scale of 1 to 5, how likely are you to recommend this PowerPoint? Qualitative research, on the other hand, is defined by Gray and Grove as a systematic, interactive, subjective, holistic, scholarly approach used to describe life experiences, cultures, and the social process from the perspective of the persons involved in their natural settings. The 4 types of qualitative research are phenomenological, grounded theory, ethnographical, and exploratory descriptive. Qualitative surveys may include more open-ended questions than quantitative surveys, such as, tell me about your experience here. Survey research can also be used in mixed method studies that would include the use of quantitative and qualitative research. First, let's examine the steps to survey research in the form of an interview. The researcher must design the questions. Wording is very important in an interview and can skew the answers. Factors such as age and educational level must be considered. Sequencing of the questions is also important. Gray and Grove recommended using broad questions first, then more specific, and to begin with safe topics, saving more sensitive topics for when the participant is much more comfortable with the interviewer. Demographic information questions are typically asked last. Next, the researcher should pilot test questions on a similar sample and make adjustments as necessary. When the interviewer should get prepared, they should have a thorough understanding of the research area of interest. Then, they should understand their script, and if they are allowing to use probing, or if they should ask the questions exactly as they are written. Next, choose a setting that is calm, quiet, and private for your interview. During the interview itself, record the data. This can be done via an audio or video recording, with the participant's permission, of course, or via handwritten notes, although it's important not to let this distract from the actual interview itself. And then finally, your data analysis will be performed. Next, let's examine the steps to survey research in the form of a questionnaire. These steps are somewhat similar to conducting an interview. First, the researcher should make a blueprint for the questionnaire itself. This will put a cap on the number of questions that will be asked. This is important since less participants will answer, the longer the questionnaire is. With this blueprint, the researcher should identify the desired information and structure the questions around this. When creating these questions, the researcher should keep in mind the age and education level of the participant. The sequential order also matters, and recommendations are discussed in creating interview questions that apply to the questionnaire questions as well. The questionnaire items all have a STEM question and a response set. The response set can be open-ended or a specific list of items to choose from. Gray and Grove recommend doing research and using a previously made questionnaire. This can examine the validity of your tool. Next, pilot your test questions on a similar sample who will give honest feedback. Make adjustments based on these recommendations. For example, a participant in a pilot study may state that the questionnaire instructions did not specify whether one should circle or underline their chosen response in the questionnaire. Questionnaires can be done via the internet, by mail or email, or even in person. So send out your questionnaires appropriately. Once the questionnaires have been completed and returned, then analyze the data. An example of a survey research study seen here is evaluating whether survey research can be used to identify heroin use and have it measured accurately in a general population survey. The researchers and policymakers rely heavily upon general population surveys, such as the U.S. National Survey on Drug Use and Health, to estimate heroin use without confronting their limitations. This general population survey estimates are also ambiguous for cocaine and methamphetamines, so insights pertaining to this general population survey for estimating heroin use were irrelevant in different drug markets. Heroin has occupied a distinctly important place in drug policy for more than a century, and in other, opioid accounts for more than half of the deaths of the year's life lost due to drug use. They're involved in 82% of fatal overdoses in Europe, and in the United States, the most recent national market assessment's best estimate is that 2.3 million chronic heroin users support a criminal market with $43 billion in annual revenues. Infrequent users are not uncommon, but they account for only a sliver of the market demand because they consume much less per person than do chronic users. While conducting survey use of heroin, discussions of the nationwide numbers of heroin users are often cite estimates based on a general population survey, such as the one. The National Survey on Drug Use and Health is among the largest and strongest general population survey, with approximately 70,000 completed interviews each year. And despite this large sample size, few respondents report frequent use of heroin. Among more than 330,000 respondents between 2011 and 2016, for whom the data survey are publicly available, only 217 reported using heroin more than 4 days a week, yielding an average population weighted estimate of 156,000 such daily or near daily users at any given time. The difficulty with using survey research to evaluate the use of heroin in the United States is that the surveys are not often answered honestly. The challenges and limitations of using such a survey is that response rates for most surveys have fallen substantially since approximately 1990, including the inability to participate in a survey due to language barriers. The United States Drug and Health Institute rates are high by comparison, but selective non-response can also be a very serious problem, as some arithmetic in their surveys show. One of these strengths compared to a general population survey is in some other countries that it is no longer simply a household survey. It includes adults living in non-institutionalized group quarters, such as homeless shelters, rooming or boarding houses, dormitories, migrant work camps, and halfway houses. In 2010 census, that is an extended sampling of the framework of over 308 million people in the United States. However, that glass is only 97% full, as the United States Drug and Health Survey estimate that past heroin use on one such survey is so low due to lack of folks returning the survey. Of course, selective non-response, underreporting, and sampling frame exclusions applied to this widely used survey. The argument here is that they just may be particularly serious for estimates of frequent use of drugs such as heroin, and underreporting seems particularly likely to generate underestimates. So while looking forward to selective research process to evaluate heroin use, the general population survey may not be the best methodology to collect true data.